Good morning on Wednesday, February 15th, and welcome back to another episode of the 359 podcast. It's episode 180, and today with us we have Alfred Ng and Ben Fox Rubin. Good morning, guys. What are we talking about today?
Good morning.
So many things. We've got the 1 year later after the Apple versus FBI case where it's still
Nothing happened.
It's still all up in the air. So your privacy concerns, there's no definite answer to that yet.
Yeah, so we'll definitely discuss that. And, we spent a lot of time talking about that last year, and it's actually interesting to see that it continues to be a Damocles sword over all of us. That's right. I went there.
Oh, boy.
We also wanted to talk about HTC. They disclosed that they're planning on coming out with a mobile VR headset similar to Daydream or Gear VR, but they claim that it's going to be a little bit more complex or a little bit more sophisticated. And Alfred's going to talk to us a bit about rock climbing using AR.
Yeah, that was a fun experience once I started getting feeling in my arms again. But and after all the falling. But
Do you even lift, bro?
I don't.
But he does breakdance, so he's cooler than, I don't know, me.
Either of us.
At least. Yeah. I'll speak for myself. Either way, send in your questions and comments. We'll get to them at the end of the show. As always, Brian will pick out the best ones, and we'll try to answer as many as possible. And that's about it. Let's get this thing going.
All right, we're going to get this
roll.
recorded. Go ahead and submit your questions and comments about the topics at hand or anything else in the tech world today, and we'll get to them in exactly 3 minutes and 40. What's the name of the show again?
44 seconds.
3 minutes and 87 seconds. Wait, no.
Welcome to the 344.
3 minutes and 59 seconds from 3, 2.
Welcome to the 359. I'm Ben Fox Rubin.
I'm Alfred Ng.
This time last year, we were talking just about every day about Apple's squabble with the FBI, in which the government tried to get Apple to unlock an iPhone used by a terrorist in the San Bernardino attack. This issue dissipated after the FBI dropped its request, but a year later, this thing is totally unresolved. So, Alfred, you think this thing is going to... You think this issue between security and privacy is going to resurface at some point this year again?
It definitely will. The Manhattan District Attorney has, been pressing for this. It hasn't been getting as much coverage, but in a lot of cases, he's always been asking, judges to get orders to get, information from people's iPhones. That's how they caught a lot of drug dealers in that sense. And, it needs to be another major national incident for this to pop up as an issue for Apple and the FBI again.
Yeah, and when you think about that, that almost seems like an inevitability. Like something like that is just bound to happen at some point, if not this year, then maybe next year. Not that we want it to happen, but it continues to just be this unrealed issue.
The reason why it's been unresolved, though, is because, the FBI found somebody else that was willing to do it for them. And then in that sense, it was, all right, we don't need you anymore. And then it turns out that the company that did help the FBI break into the San Bernardino shooter's iPhone, that company ended up getting hacked also, which is what Apple was concerned about in the first place.
As far as creating a backdoor.
Yeah, if the idea, if we make this kind of master key kind of thing, what happens when somebody steals that? Which is kind of what happened to this firm that helped the FBI.
So you and I as consumers, we obviously see this thing as a big concern. Obviously, I don't want the government cracking into my iPhone. That seems like too powerful a tool potentially. But to get the other side in there, I wanted to throw out an interesting quote from FBI Director James Comey. He said this last year: "The notion that privacy should be absolute or that the government should keep their hands off our phones, to me, that just makes no sense given our history and our values." So at least that's his position, to say that like this idea of absolute privacy, at least he's not buying it.
That is completely absurd. For him to say, given our history with that too. So
Yeah. Next, HTC plans to release a new mobile VR headset as a follow-up to its high-end Vive device. What's interesting about this new piece is HTC claims it will be more sophisticated than other mobile VR headsets like the Samsung Gear VR. The thing that I think is really going to be key for this is what's the price going to be. The Gear VR is $100. Google Daydream, right now it's like $50. What do you think could work as like a mobile VR headset?
I think if they price it the same as Oculus, it should be fine. I just love their pitch.
Like $100?
Yeah. I just love their pitch right now where it's basically I'm you, but stronger.
What?
Where it's like, it's going to be like this, but more powerful. But yeah, that's very specific. Thank you for that.
I don't know if this is really going to get people like even more interested in VR if they haven't already, but maybe more
I
sophisticated.
think it will. I think the issue with VR has been it's not been as accessible as it should be. You know, if everyone had one, I think it'd be way cooler in that sense. You know, people making more content for it in games.
Yeah. Last, Alfred, you had a chance to go to Brooklyn Boulder to check out AR rock climbing. Tell us a bit about that.
So rock climbing is in its nature is already very difficult, but when you add AR to it, so basically they have a webcam, you know, connected to a projector, and the webcam registers your movements, and then it has 5 checkpoints where as you go through it, it checks off one by one. It's kind of like a race, a time trial thing.
Yeah.
But it's rock climbing. So I know how to run, but I don't know how to rock climb, and I did very poorly with that.
Was it kind of fun? Like, did it make it a more interesting experience?
Definitely. It's, you know, it makes it a game.
If I ever start exercising again, I will definitely get into that. So if you want to read more about these stories, check us out on CNET. I'm Ben Fox Rubin.
I'm Alfred Ng.
Thanks for listening.
For the record, it's HTC Vive.
Yeah.
Did I say Viv?
I don't want to call him out on air.
Vive. My mistake. I must mispronounce that every other time. I
Probably.
do say Vive sometimes. I swear.
At least you understand the product. Maybe your pronunciation's off.
I mean, like that's very generous of you to say that I understand the product.
Living
I,
La
I
Vive Loca.
Trying to lend credibility to the show here. Trying.
right. I did confuse it with the company Viv that Samsung bought last year, or was that earlier this year? That was a
Was that their voice?
their voice recognition, yeah,
Yeah.
which is VIV. This is VIVE. I swear I spelled it correctly. So anyway, Vive.
Fair enough.
Yeah.
We had to kind of skim over, but tell us more about the rock climbing experience.
Yeah. We ran out of time on the podcast.
As
but
always.
here's extra hours. So I think the coolest thing about it though is that they can move the checkpoints around, which is so it took me like 35 seconds to do the course that they set for everybody, which I saw a guy do it in like 3 seconds.
Right, but he probably works there, right?
Yeah. Either he works there or he goes there a lot, but he that dude was incredible on it. But you know, they can move it around, and then usually in a rock climbing gym, when they need to, you know, remap like the course, it takes up to a week of planning because they need to make sure that it's actually climbable. And then it takes like a full day for them to like actually take them out and then like put them back into the other places. But with AR, it's essentially they just like drag and drop it on their laptop,
Right.
and then you just go and you like tap them around. They had other game modes there too, but I didn't get to try them out. There's one called Hex. It's kind of like the floor is lava, but on a rock climbing wall. So like there's like certain parts on the wall that you can't touch, so you have to like climb around it.
That's pretty sweet.
Then they have this one called like Ghost Chaser or something. It's kind of like it's like Pac-Man. So like you're rock climbing, and there's like a little ghost.
Is somebody
chasing you.
chasing you?
Not somebody, but there's like a projection of a ghost like chasing you.
That sounds
rock climbing.
terrifying.
Yeah.
I don't want to do that.
Apparently that one was like incredibly difficult. Like no one could do it. So.
Yeah. It makes a lot of sense to me to integrate something like this because obviously like changing up the rock wall, as you said, can take a lot of time. Just adding this additional AR layer.
I kind of wish there was something like this, but not on a rock climbing wall, like running wise, where like this is gonna sound really dorky, but like if you could like the ghost thing, but like you could play tag like by yourself.
I'm sure. Yeah. I mean, that does sound dorky.
Yeah. No one wants to play tag with me.
One of the things, I mean, like, I know ghost mode from like racing games, so
you're racing your own ghost though.
Right, yeah. So like you could go up against your like old time from yesterday potentially as like another AR concept. So it is cool to consider how you could potentially bring AR into the real world in different ways as opposed to like something like Pokemon Go where you're just staring at your phone screen. Like this way you're actually like doing something.
You're not tied to a device when you're playing it.
Which I think is kind of helpful.
The device is kind of like more in the background than like the actual tool that you're using.
Maybe we talk a little bit about where we're at with this whole Apple debacle.
Yeah.
How much further down the road do we really need to travel this trail before we see some kind of resolution?
It's to me what's interesting is if the FBI has the tool that they need to open up whatever iPhones they need to open up, or let's say an Android device, what have you, then it's really not going to come to a head the same way that it did last year. I mean, this was definitely the battle of like two major players, and it just completely dissipated at some point. You know, like the FBI got what they needed. They needed to get into the device, Apple did what they needed to do, which was to say like, look, we're not going to create a backdoor. That's a skeleton key. We don't want to have out there. That's way too dangerous. But what if Apple finds whatever bug or whatever backdoor the FBI had discovered, then this could potentially resurface.
So what you're saying is no light at the end of the tunnel.
Well,
It's hard to say.
until an official judge like makes a call on it. Yeah.
The problem
that was the issue with this one, where it never officially went to court.
The problem with a lot of these things too is that they're tied up with a lot of these very scary incidents. I mean, this one in particular was a terrorist attack. People died. Another incident was a murder trial where Amazon is involved, where the government was trying to get recordings from an Amazon Echo.
Right.
So it obviously puts the tech companies in this precarious situation where they're like fighting for privacy, but over like murder trials or terrorist trials.
Also
like that's not
a Pandora's
easy,
box.
Yeah, it's not an easy position to defend.
And in both of those cases, it wasn't there. They had no clear and present like warrant for getting information off of that. It was just basically, this is locked information. We want to see what's in there. Especially with the Amazon Echo case.
Totally, it could have just completely been a wild goose
in the
chase.
warrant, it was basically saying, it can pick up hearing, and we're hoping that that might lead to something. It was the same thing with the San Bernardino case too. There wasn't exactly. We know that it's recorded on this. We want to know what it is. It was maybe there's something there, which is very shaky ground if you're going to take that.
It can be. I mean, I understand that government officials and investigators want to turn over every stone, obviously, but it's interesting to see that at the very least, from a consumer perspective, that that these tech companies are taking a pretty hard stance against this kind of stuff to say like, no, we do not want to create these backdoors. Particularly after like all the Edward Snowden stuff came out.
Totally.
They really do not like the idea of presenting themselves as working too closely with the government on these things.
It's also why companies like Signal are basically, bringing in tools that's basically, even if we wanted to give you the information, we couldn't. It's all encrypted.
Right. Apple says similar stuff too, which is interesting, and that definitely allows them to like wipe their hands of the situation.
Calling out to everyone in the chat, how do you feel about this? Do you think that there is warrant and reason for federal agencies to be able to obtain information from your devices? Would you volunteer it yourself? Do you feel that is a call that you as a consumer should make, or the company should be able to entitle? Just interested to see what everyone's perspective on this is. I'd say if like an agent came to me and was looking for information, I guess, it's so subjective.
It's really thorny.
Like if I was involved, like if I was somehow victimized, or someone I knew was victimized, I think I would obviously volunteer that information. But if it was something that had nothing to do with me personally, I would struggle with that.
The complication too is that, if somebody's going to argue the case that like, you have nothing to hide, like, why don't you just disclose information? Well, that's an incredibly slippery slope.
Exactly.
An incredibly dumb
Exactly.
argument.
And like once you go down there, it's a Pandora's box. You cannot come back.
Right. Right. You're basically, I remember listening to something at NPR a couple days ago that suggested that the way technology is moving these days, this concept of privacy is something that will have existed for several decades. It didn't exist in the past, and it won't exist in the future. And like what we consider privacy is an illusion that we're all under these days.
I mean, we gave up the concept of privacy the minute we got smartphones. The minute you put a tracking chip in your pocket.
Sure. Yeah.
And that's a voluntary
number
effort.
Of different reasons. For a number of different things. The Amazon Echo and the Google Home is another really good example of that, where people very comfortable with the idea of having a live mic, which granted is waiting for a wake word, but it's still a live mic in your home. People use Nest cams all the time, which is a Wi-Fi.
Much a camera.
It's a Wi-Fi connected camera, and that's only as good as the software behind it from, getting hacked and having people look inside your house. I mean, like, I'm not trying to like scare the hell out of people, but we're already there as far as some of these technologies.
It's the ultimate pro-con list, right? Like, are these benefits and advancements worth the risk? Because there is an inherent risk through all of this.
Right. And talking to technology companies, if anything, they're really interested in getting more data about us because they claim that will allow them to give you better products, understand you better, give you what you want faster, more efficiently, what have you. So
It's
that
same.
that balance is going to continue.
Well, it's a similar fashion with advertising and cookies, right? When you're watching online video, it's like, I don't mind ads if they're good ads.
Mhm.
Sell me something good. If this thing can bring better aspects to my life, yeah, let's fall back on the I have nothing to hide kind of argument. But then, I mean, do they want to hear me fighting with my girlfriend
Yes.
on the Echo or something like that?
Right. So
Am
they
I-
can
am
send
I
you
Unknowingly providing fodder for a really good reality show? Or?
Oh, that is really frightening. That's some creepy.
That's the
creepy
TMZ stuff right there.
Yeah.
In the chat, Jerry says he would volunteer if it's going to save lives. But Danny says keep it locked down, period.
Right.
There's a difference between volunteering your information though and
Having
you know,
the contract you sign entitle it to someone else.
Yeah.
Right. Without your explicit permission.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
You volunteering is you giving it up, and then other people like just being able to look into your phone at any point, you know, whatsoever, without any kind of discretion or warrant or anything like that. That's
It's a little different.
Yeah.
Yeah. And probably some like people are probably a little more comfortable with that idea. The problem with, you know, some of these other aspects is a court is like forcing the information to come out, which I would think people are a little less or a little more cautious about, you know, because they're losing control.
I mean, ultimately, should government agencies, police, security type agencies have the right to make that call?
See,
I mean,
exactly.
if anything-
That's
Exactly.
the question.
Yeah.
That's the question. And that's still very much
That's still up in the
unresolved.
air.
Yeah. And like this situation with Apple and the FBI could have easily gone to the Supreme Court.
Now,
It didn't.
Devil's
you know?
advocate, do you think, and God forbid, any more incidents occur, would that force the hand?
I don't think it'd force their hand, but I think it'd bring the issue back up again. And then now with a different president, you know, that kind of changes.
There's a whole new
lot.
perspective.
Yeah.
Right.
Absolutely a whole new perspective.
Yeah. Yeah. In Shara Tipkin's story today, she mentioned that during the campaign, President Trump, while he was still a candidate, argued, you know, very strongly about the idea that like, who does Apple think they are? They should release this information.
Boycott that he came up with.
Yeah, he called for a boycott. So
Totally
But is it
if-
really about releasing the information, or is it about protecting the right of choice for the company and its customers?
Well, Apple was bringing up that it was more so about the security aspect of it where, okay, well, even if we did make this tool, like there's like, it's probably going to get stolen at some point. So
Exactly.
yeah.
Right.
That's it.
Which
They're creating the
I
weapon
think
of their
that
own
is
demise.
Yeah.
That's a
pretty much.
very interesting
It
argument.
wasn't, we don't want to help you or we don't want to give up information. It was, yeah, but think about how it'll affect everyone else kind of thing.
Yeah.
Right. The thing that is
You're giving
most
the key to the castle.
Yeah.
the thing that's most intriguing about it is that behind the scenes there is that key that's available. It just isn't as publicly available. You know, like there was that third party that showed up. What was it? Celebrite or what was the company?
I don't remember their
It was
names.
either way. It was a cybersecurity firm that showed up and was able to unlock the iPhone, and that's what kind of cleared up the whole situation.
Yeah.
I
And
mean,
they-
it's obvious that it's not impossible. Is
Yeah.
it right? And that is.
These are very good questions. I
We're
don't know
getting
the answer. to them.
uncharacteristically heavy on the show today.
Yeah.
I mean, the best
it's
part-
really, I mean, like to me, this is fascinating because I think both sides have very legitimate arguments.
Absolutely.
You know, like there's no,
It
there's
doesn't
no
get grayer than
right
this.
answer. There's no right answer. And had it actually gone to the Supreme Court, from just from an observer's perspective, I'd be fascinated to see what their view of like what's the balance here, like what's actually appropriate.
Man, that's
Hasn't
a tough one.
happened. Yeah.
Because you do, like, I think there's an inherent instinct to want to help, right? If something horrible happened and you can somehow provide an asset or information to benefit that, to solve it, you want to, but it's like, but then what happens when they have that key, they have that weapon, and they come back later and they use it against you?
yeah.
Because
that's
I'm
the
saying
thing.
it would happen, but
Yeah.
it could happen, and you can't undo that.
The best part when they unlocked the San Bernardino shooter's iPhone 5C was that it had nothing on it. They found nothing there. So, I mean, assuming that this whole case had gone through and, you know, Apple did lose, like they would have all been for, you know, absolutely nothing either.
Well, yes and no. It would have given the FBI a huge tool for future scenarios.
Yeah.
Really basically like force the tech companies to roll over and hand over their information. So do we have any more comments, by the way?
We should probably get wrapped up soon.
Yeah.
Props to Death Omen in the chat, who's currently clearing their web browser history as we speak. Let's break the mold for a
Awesome.
second. We got to go. We got to end on a light note. Jerson wants to know if anyone here would buy the Nintendo Switch. Completely off topic. Would you buy the Nintendo
We've
Switch?
got a
I
Nintendo
was-
Switch expert right
I
here.
was convinced after seeing it in person, to be honest. I think it was the size that like really got to me. When I realized it's about like the same size as your 2DS, as my 2DS at least, which I carry around a lot, it was basically, oh, it's actually a lot more portable than I think it is. And they made a good point. So when they designed the battery life of it, the idea was basically the biggest concern was, can you play it during your commute to work?
Right.
So right now, it had a lot of criticisms for being only like 3 to 5 hours of battery life, but that's, you know, people looking at it from the perspective of Nintendo's previous handhelds, which had, you know, pretty good battery life on it, but also they were looking at it from the perspective of it being a home console, which, you know, is just plugged in all the time.
Well, can it only be charged from its own dock, or is it USB-C?
It's USB-C.
So you can charge it at your desk at work and take it back.
Yeah,
on the road.
so when they were developing the battery life for it, it was basically, can I get this from my home to the office and back, you know, and have it last the whole day? That was their threshold for like what the battery life is. And I don't know, I see myself playing it on the subway, coming in, you know, when I'm supposed to be working, during this podcast, you know, all.
So you're dropping coin on this.
I'm waiting, basically. I'm waiting for like some kind of bundle because $300 for just that console is still a little bit like wonky to me.
I would wait until at least there were more games to choose
Yeah,
from.
basically.
Well, do you see this as something that's going to like really help reinvigorate Nintendo? I mean, like they've been losing in the console game.
You can
The
only
Wii
get
U
you
did
can
not
you
do
can
it.
only get so far with a console. I think they're gonna need the games to back it up.
Well,
Which
they've always had the games to back it up, arguably.
yeah, I don't know if we have enough time on the podcast.
I mean, at least the franchise mainstays, the Super Mario Galaxies,
Yeah,
the Legends of
Zelda,
Zeldas,
yeah.
varying back and forth, never really completely falling off.
it definitely will be interesting to see like how that plays out like for their mobile strategy because you know, Legend of Zelda, Mario Galaxy, you know, Sunshine, all those games. Those are not games that you play like on a commute. Like you'd have to be
No,
able
you're
to
right.
save at all times or something like that.
Yep.
Because I can't like there's certain games that I don't play on the subway because I know like I'm gonna miss my stop or something like that if I like and I can't like just like shut it off or anything like that.
I'm currently frustratingly plowing back through Sonic CD on my commute, and it is infuriating.
Yeah, exactly. So it'll be interesting to see those games play out. But for they do have other kinds of games, you know, where it's just, you know, play and then you can just shut it off and then, you know, keep playing it again later on. Like Bomberman 5 being one of that.
Yep.
Yeah. I'm very excited for that one, by the way. I don't know if it's 5. It's R. It's Super
Yeah,
Bomberman
yeah, right.
R. I've been playing Bomberman 5. That's why
Ben,
you
you don't game.
I haven't been. No, I have a PS4 and I have the Xbox 360, which I had been playing a little bit. So I just finished DMC, but I haven't been playing Nintendo that much.
No,
So
I haven't consistently played Nintendo in a
I'm
very
not.
long time.
I'm not in the market for the Switch.
The last thing I still
I'm
have is a
pretty happy.
GameCube.
And the GameCube was phenomenal.
You know what-
I love that system.
You know what would pull me in? If they had an augmented reality peripheral and you could play Metroid first person.
That would be pretty sweet.
Whoa.
That's coming. Just
That would-
close your eyes and wait.
You
That will
would
be
never
here.
see me again. Ever. All right.
Cool.
Probably about time to wrap it up.
Yeah. Let's
Good
make
show,
it
guys.
happen. All right. The 359 podcast is available on iTunes, TuneIn, Stitcher, SoundCloud, FeedBurner, Google Play Music, and
I think it's on CNET, right?
is it of course it's on CNET. All
might
right,
be.
let's wrap it up. We will see you. It's Wednesday, so we'll see you again tomorrow on
Yep.
Thursday for our last podcast of the week. And thanks always for watching.
Last.
Good day to you all.